In this video, we will learn about types of respiration. We know that respiration is basically breaking down of glucose. So glucose is broken down to produce energy. Now this energy will be used to do daily activity. Now respiration can be broadly divided into two main types. One is aerobic respiration, another is anaerobic respiration. Now what is the difference? If we see the word aerobic, that means it requires air. Air here refers to presence of oxygen. So aerobic respiration is where we see breakdown of glucose into carbon dioxide and water, and this chemical reaction needs the presence of oxygen. And this of course occurs inside the cell. Now how can we write the equation? So glucose in the presence of oxygen will break down to give CO2, that is carbon dioxide, water, that's H2O, and energy is released. Now organisms that use oxygen for this process are termed as aerobes, and majority of the animals and plants that we see on a daily basis, they perform respiration through aerobic mode only. The second type is termed as anaerobic respiration. What does anaerobe mean? Anaerobe means it doesn't need air. Here specifically it means absence of oxygen. Now when glucose is broken down in absence of oxygen, we call it as anaerobic respiration. Now very few plants and animals can survive without oxygen, and they can obtain energy even in absence of oxygen, and they are termed as anaerobes. Now anaerobic respiration occurs in yeast, which is a unicellular organism, some bacteria, some parasitic flatworms. Now apart from that, anaerobic respiration can also be seen in our cell also. Before going to that, first we will see in yeast. In yeast, what happens in the absence of oxygen, glucose breaks down incompletely into a intermediate product, that is ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. We can also term this as ethanol or ethyl alcohol. Now the equation can be summarized as glucose in the absence of oxygen gives us ethyl alcohol or ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. And this chemical reaction where the sugar is broken down anaerobically to give alcohol, this equation is termed as fermentation. And this fermentation is the basis for our alcohol or beverage industry, where we produce various products like wine, beer, etc. Now in our body, as mentioned earlier, our body also performs anaerobic respiration occasionally. So this occurs in our muscles when we are doing vigorous muscular activity. It could be fast running, brisk walking, lifting heavy object, heavy exercise, etc., which needs extensive amount of energy. So then demand of oxygen is very high, but oxygen supply that we are giving to these muscles are still limited or unchanged. So the breathing is normal because we cannot increase it after some time. So oxygen supply to these muscles, now let's assume I am running, so these calf muscles, thigh muscles are working very hard, but oxygen supply is limited. So therefore, under such conditions where you have shortage of oxygen, the skeletal muscles respire anaerobically. And this breakdown of glucose again is incomplete, and it produces an intermediate product, that is lactic acid, plus energy is released. Now if we see, accumulation of lactic acid keeps on happening in the skeletal muscles, and that accumulation can cause muscle cramps or muscle fatigue. So that we experience as a pain in the muscles. Now how do we get relief from these muscle cramp? Simple. What is the primary problem? Accumulation of lactic acid. And how does this happen? This is due to limited supply or less supply of oxygen. Now, simple solution is give enough oxygen to these muscles. Now, lactic acid will get converted or broken down into CO2 and energy. Now, how will I increase oxygen supply? Simply, we have to take hot water bath or gently massage to the area with lukewarm oil. So, this increases the blood circulation in that region and subsequently increases the oxygen supply to the muscles. Now, this supply of oxygen, what does it cause? It breaks down or it causes complete oxidation of lactic acid into CO2, carbon dioxide, and water. That gets you relieved of muscle cramp. Now, if we see the main difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration, first and foremost, the difference is oxygen presence and absence. Aerobic respiration requires oxygen, anaerobic respiration doesn't need oxygen, absence of oxygen. In aerobic respiration, glucose is completely broken down or oxidized. In aerobic, it is incomplete. Now, in aerobic respiration, end products are carbon dioxide and water, and of course, energy. And energy released in aerobic respiration is comparatively higher compared to our anaerobic. In end products of anaerobic, you will either get ethyl alcohol or lactic acid along with carbon dioxide, and energy is less compared to aerobic respiration. Now, aerobic respiration occurs in most of the plants and animals, whereas anaerobic in very few organisms like yeast, bacteria, parasitic flatworm, and in our muscle cells, that too when there is less oxygen supply. I hope this topic is clear to you. Thank you.